Ondy Wilson is a UK-based, internationally acclaimed mindfulness trainer, writer, and Buddhist teacher, a Dharma practitioner since 1980, and an FPMT touring teacher since 2007. She makes teachings accessible to contemporary life. She has created a mindfulness-based mind training program that encapsulates Buddhist psychology in a secular framework. She has an upcoming book on the day-to-day practice of mindful awareness that is called Spiritual Rebellion, Why We Need to Practice Mindfulness with Attitude. This workshop will repeat on the 22nd and 29th of this month at the same time, same day of the week.
Thank you, Louis, and welcome to all of you. And we're continuing our theme of self-esteem, become your own therapist. It's about starting with the self that I introduced in the first week. And last week we looked at the concept of refuge. And I thought it was appropriate, really, because it's nice to actually see the common sense that these prayers share. We say the Buddhist prayers. You may not be a Buddhist, but we say the Buddhist prayers, blah, 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 and often don't really think about it. There they are on the page and we repeat them. But actually, they incorporate so many fundamental ways of motivating ourselves and understanding what we're doing, which is the refuge. And this prayer, which I thought we'd go through this week, called the Four Immeasurables, some of you may be aware of. But again, it's translatable into any religion, really. And it's often at the beginning of pujas, which are prayer meetings, and in sadhanas, these written texts, as a way of generating compassion. So because this has become your own therapist, we, I think, especially as Westerners, have accepted that before we can reach out to others, we need to reach in. We need to reach in and sort out our relationship with ourselves. And so this prayer, which is just 4 lines long, it enables us to do that. And then we can talk a little bit about how that can then be moved outward. So that's the structure of the session this week. And as always, we start with a little meditation, and then I go blah, blah, blah for a while, and then I open it up to you. So do feel, free and ready to write some questions down. Otherwise, I'll just have to go blah, blah, blah again, and it's nice to get your personal take on what we've been talking about. So in the meditation, we'll start with just calming ourselves, entering the space, a nice little bit of mindful breathing. I'll then draw in our motivation, and I'll refer to refuge, which we will have a feel for, especially if we're not a Buddhist. And even if we are, hopefully we can feel it resonating more strongly in us, more consciously. And then I'll introduce the prayer just to get your heads around it before we start the session. So 5 to 10 minutes max on that. So let's first of all just take some lovely deep breaths. 12 o'clock in US, that's sort of, you can have lunch after this, can't you? Yeah. So it's a nice time of day where you've done your morning's business or whatever it is you need to do, and you can just take time out for yourselves, nourish yourselves, how important that is. So as you take those deep breaths, just check your posture. As you breathe out, let the tension melt away. Shoulders, legs, jaws. And enter that calm spaciousness where you can give yourself permission to let go of thoughts, worries, anxieties, emotions, anything that's dominating and stirring you up. Just stop stirring, basically, and let the water become still. And we make our motivation for this session, why you've come here. Is there anything in particular you wish to address or ask about? What are your motives? Nice and simple, with clarity. And always come back to your breath. And then we'll think of your refuge. This is refuge, this session, refuge from the rest of life, coming back to your inner wisdom, your Buddha nature, if you like, your enlightened potential. Who you really are beneath all the machinations of the ego. This is home. And what brings us there is a connection with the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. That precious motivation to be of benefit to all beings. And by generating the wisdom and compassion of our inner self, we can then go out towards others. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings never be separated from sorrowless joy. May all beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment to some and aversion for others. And then you can, when you're ready, you can relax and end your meditation. Okay. So just to repeat the point that we're looking at this week, we are, in Become Your Own Therapist, we are looking at our own mental and emotional well-being. If we don't have that, then we are always in a state of flux in our relationship with others, because it is always others that seem to threaten our happiness and whether we are free from suffering. Yeah, it's all to do with relationships, how we measure ourselves against other people, whether we're getting on with them or not, whatever kind of people they are. We're always pointing the finger, really, even though we know as Buddhists, that if you are a Buddhist, that there's a kind of karmic cause and effect here and a karmic consequence. Nevertheless, when we talk to people, we think the mind automatically, the ego gets a little bit, a little bit upset if somebody says just one wrong word. It can really follow us during the day. What did they mean by that? Are they suggesting that I'm not? Did they think that, am I like that? And we go into this whole kind of crazy conversation with ourselves, which is kind of ego within a self-talk, and who's going to win. So that's what we mean by mental well-being. Genuine mental well-being, as the Buddha would say, is enlightenment, because until we have actually realized emptiness, we are all in a state of considerable confusion and we're all ego-centered. So our job, as ordinary beings working with our ordinary minds, is to be aware when our minds go down those paths and pull them back. And that is going to increase our feeling of well-being daily in our ordinary lives. It's never going to be perfect until we've realized emptiness, but it will be vastly improved and we'll feel more at peace. And the more at peace we are with ourselves, that's when we can really give to others. So it's understanding that basis of how important good self-esteem is. Because if you want to, look at any saintly person, whether they be a Tibetan Lama or some other teacher that you know, or somebody who is highly realized, the reason they are so attractive and seem so content to us is because they are completely comfortable with themselves. So we mustn't think that this is some kind of big pride. I'm a great person. It's very different to that. It's just a humility, a very beautiful humility, which again, you see in the lamas. You see the Dalai Lama, and he will bow when he's with his teacher. So they have these incredible ways of behaving with each other, which enables them to always remember that actually they are the way they are only because they have met the Dharma and been able to practice it, and that is their refuge. So it's a really kind of good lesson just to look at them and think about, well, are they coming over as arrogant and proud because they're full of self-esteem? No, it's, as always, the irony in Buddhism is the opposite. So the more proud, the more arrogant, the more bossy, the more I'm wonderful. Hey, we don't have to go far down that route these days, do we? To see, tyrannical leaders in our society who are full of themselves, to know that actually deep within that person, they are not happy. They're not happy with themselves. And the more unhappy you are with yourself, the more you try and control others, thinking that that will bring you happiness. It's amazing psychology, isn't it, really? It's just that diametrically opposed other way of being that is actually expressing your self-esteem. And this is not to be misunderstood with being a doormat, yeah? So we definitely do not want to go down the route of, for instance, as an example, a common example is to be in a relationship with someone and they dominate you and you think, oh, well, I don't want to upset anyone. Or I don't want to upset the family. Or if I say this or do this, then it'll upset people. So yes, I'll just. It's not genuine. It's not genuine. It's actually lacking awareness of what is true self-esteem, because you're also allowing that person to dominate and bully you, yeah, which isn't good for them either. So we don't want to misunderstand a genuine sense of humility, which is good self-esteem. We don't want to think that that is the same as the common approach to humility. So in society, it's full of, Western values are all about the individual. I am, Actually, I noticed the only thing I've seen the Dalai Lama say about our friend Mr. Putin is that, there seems to be a lot of I. Yeah. I. That's all I've heard him say. Maybe he said other things, but I thought, yeah, for any of us who know, we know exactly what that means. There's a focus on self-centeredness. So don't mistake ever needing to be unassertive and passive with genuine self-esteem and humility. Yeah, humility actually comes from a place of excellent self-esteem, because we understand our connection with others. We understand that that it is through our relationship with others, our gratitude for things like the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, our refuge in what is good and right. So what we're doing with this prayer, coming back to the prayer, is we're saying this prayer for others. And I'll go through each line and what they really mean. We'll go through that a bit more. In order to genuinely want those beings to be happy on a day-to-day level, we need to want that for ourselves. Does that make sense? We need to want ourselves to be happy, free from suffering. And we need ourselves to also live in equanimity. We need to be practicing all those for ourselves. Only then will our wishes for all other sentient beings be genuine. Because until then, we might say, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness, which is sending love. And then we go out and our neighbors dump something, or is making a lot of noise. And we're thinking, oh, bloody hell, and we're going into a state of, we don't want them to be there and we wish they'd bugger off or whatever. And so there's not a real sense of wanting them to be happy. There's anger related. And I'm just using crazy examples, but you'll be able to look at the examples in your own life. We've all got them. And that's who we're practicing with. So, for instance, next door to me, I've got a very sweet lady. She has some disabilities. She's got a massive dog. A great big, what we call Old English sheepdog. We have these paint commercials, Dulux dogs, and it's like that. And when I go out of the house, and it happened the first day I moved in, and I jump out of my skin because it can't see me. There's a big hedge, so it is private, but I always hear this dog. Now, I have some people who come around and go, oh, that must drive you crazy. I said, well, not anymore, because I know she's not going anywhere. And I know it's because she's scared. So I just say, oh, it's only me, Cassie, be quiet, and have that conversation. And that is me practicing, Deep down, I think, wouldn't it be great if they moved? But then what might move in? You don't know, do you? You can get something much worse. So that's kind of my practice. To imagine Cassie, that great big dog, like a lion, prowling behind that hedge, just waiting for somebody to come out of my door so that they can scare the living daylights out of them. And all my family know about the dog now, so it's not a problem. If I have another dog visiting, oh my goodness, all hell's let loose. Yeah. So dogs, that's a bit of an issue for me. But that is, when it comes down to it, that is our daily practice, isn't it? It's living with those little things that might irritate us or scratch the surface, because we're kind of wanting perfection. We're wanting perfection, but what we don't understand is we're never going to perfect out there, but we can perfect within. And the more we perfect within, the less trouble the external world is to us. I could some people would, I guess, make a huge thing, complain to the neighbor, moan all the time, maybe make things worse. They would, because they're pointing the figure out and they're going, that bloody dog, my life's ruined by that bloody dog. But that's not going to change anything. It makes it worse. So what we do is cause as least mental unwell-being as we can by the circumstances that are around us. So when we practice this prayer, we're thinking, I know I'm self-centered, I know I'm focused on my own problems, but when I say, may all beings have happiness, may all beings be free from suffering, when I say those things, I can contemplate for that time what that really means. I can say, may Cassie have happiness and the causes of happiness, and send her love. That's what the first line is doing. When you want somebody to be happy, you're generating love for them. Yeah. I can say, may Cassie be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. I'm generating compassion for Cassie. Now, Cassie is clearly scared, nervous. Lama Zopa says that if you could spend one moment in the mind of a dog, you'd get enlightened as quickly as you could. It's so fearful, yeah? So if we can imagine that dog's mind, because we don't. I just see and hear. I'm a sensory being. It's annoying me. And so then I react. Yeah. So by generating compassion for the dog is then a cause for my enlightenment. Such brilliant psychology. I love it. Anyway, the third line, may all beings never be separated from sorrowless joy. It's sometimes said, may all beings never be separated from the happiness that is free from suffering. A bit of a mouthful. Yeah. I like sorrowless joy, because what that means is, if you find the Dharma, may you never be separated from it. Now, that Dharma may be another religion. Of course, the Buddhism would say, well, until you understand emptiness, which is very overtly taught in Buddhism. It may be in other religions, but it's kind of not mainstream. Whereas we get the teachings on emptiness to understand it. In fact, anybody can understand emptiness to some degree if it's explained to them, you know. A lack of inherent existence. I don't exist except as labeled and conditioned and all the rest of it, just like a mug of tea, you know, is it a mug of tea from its own side? We won't go into all that now, but that's the idea of emptiness, you know, interdependence. Nothing exists solidly from its own side, and nothing has a permanent aspect to it like a soul. Yeah, it's a continually changing thing. Okay, so what we're saying there is, whether it's Buddhism or another religion, may they never be separated from it. And what we're doing there is saying, well, you know, at death, you know, we don't know where we're going. So unless we've made strong imprints on our mind, unless we've really practiced the Dharma, we die with a peaceful mind, all those things, who knows when we're going to find it again? The precious human rebirth, you know, how rare it is. So we're making a prayer as much for ourselves. Oh my goodness, don't let me be separated from it. Otherwise, what kind of mess am I going to make next time? Yeah. More mess. So we don't want to be separated from it, because we're on a path now. So we want that path to continue beyond the death of this body, into the bardo and into our next rebirth, which we pray will be as a precious human. Precious meaning we'll have contact with the Dharma. So we'll never be separated from the kind of joy that we know that isn't creating suffering and unhappiness. Sorrowless joy. Sorrowless joy. Okay. So finally, we come to the line, may we abide in equanimity, free from attachment to friends and aversion for enemies. Yeah. There's also a neutrality there, a neutrality like you don't give a damn what. Yeah. Basically, you want others to have an equanimous view of all beings. That's tricky. It's really important though, because again, it comes back to the original idea of our happiness depends on everything, everybody out there. So those people make me happy. Oh yeah, they're nice. They're coming round for tea. But those people, the dog owners or whatever we want to say, you know, having nothing to do with them, because they're causing me problems. Yeah. So what we do in our minds is we look at them all as equal in wanting happiness, equal in not knowing a lot of people how to get happiness. And even if they do, maybe going about it the wrong way, misunderstanding, and like us, making mistakes. So basically, if we make that wish for others, then we got to think about what we're doing in our own lives. Yeah, we've got to think what we're doing in our own lives. Do we have our little clubs? How do we feel when somebody new enters that club and we immediately go, do I like them or not? Within the first few seconds, apparently. Yeah. Within the first few seconds of meeting somebody, we look them up and down and we decide whether we like them or not. That's modern psychology. Yeah. If you look at neuroscience, that's what we do. And of course, we don't want to ignore our instincts, our karmic relationships with people, that all exists. However, we don't want to be led by that to not want them to be happy and want them to suffer. And of course, that's incredibly difficult in real life. How do you deal with a tyrant who comes to call? We have a little children's book called When the Tiger Came to Tea or something like that. I used to read it to the kids. And it's this idea of, this quite ferocious creature coming to tea. Do you offer them tea and cake? Or do you scream and run away? Yeah. What's the most sensible way psychologically of handling that person? Yeah. So that opens up a lot of questions and a lot of dilemmas. And we all know the story, or maybe you don't. Have I told you this? But I forget where I say things. So anyway, it never hurts to hear it again, of the Buddha on the boat. And he knew there were lots of people being sick. Can you imagine a refugee boat? It's full of people. And one person on it has a plan to tip everybody off so that they survive. And the Buddha's on the boat, or as a bodhisattva, I think. And he can see this with his mind, so he kills him in order to save everybody else. Yeah. So that's the story of the Buddha on the boat. We have to take care with that one. We have to have a lot of wisdom for it. So equanimity in ourselves. What we can do realistically is be open to people. And if we find ourselves judging them, just kind of go down any Buddhist psychological route you'd like to say, come on, you don't know where they come from. You don't know what they've been through. We don't know anything. We don't know why they are the way they are. A friend of mine was telling me the other day, so I'm just trusting what she says, but she said apparently when Mr. Putin was at the end of Soviet Russia and he'd been in the KGB, he was completely humiliated and driven away. It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. I'm not saying it's a reason for what he's doing, but I'm just saying that in every tyrant, as well as their conditioning and their tendencies and their karma, they have their own reasons for why they are the way they are. Very difficult to have compassion for them, but one could have equanimity. Move them from the enemy into another position. And just put them on hold for a while, yeah? And say the jury's out. And I'll deal with some people who I know might cause me problems. An irritating relative, stroppy teenager, difficult husband, whoever it is. And you can work on them because you kind of know where they're coming from. And you can have love and compassion for them. And you can want them to be never separated from what's meaningful. But unless we can really feel that with ourselves and think, well, whoever dislikes me, they don't know who I am, but I kind of understand because I might be this, I might be talked too much, I might be intimidating, I might be a know-it-all. I don't know why they don't like me. But, I like me. I like me. I'm a good person. I'm doing my best. And I'm trying to be as balanced in my relationships with everybody as I can. And when I really feel that I want myself to be happy, I really feel that I want to be happy. I love myself. And I really have compassion for all my issues. I really see the suffering and the difficulties I've been through, and you think, you poor bugger, you're doing really well. When you really feel that, and you value what's good and right and true, and you have an equanimous feeling for yourself, you don't go into self-hatred and self-loathing, into complete indulgence because you're feeding some empty hole, then that prayer becomes truly meaningful. Then we can focus on others. So when we say the prayer, don't leave yourself out of it, especially if you suffer from low self-esteem. And if you do have a big issue with self-esteem and you're going through a difficult time, change it. There's another lovely poem which I'm going to finish on before I ask questions, which, if you want a copy of it, I can send it through to, who can I send it through to? And anyway, you can let me know that. It's quite simple, and it's by Pema Chodron. May I be at peace. May my heart remain open. May I awaken to the light of my own true nature. May I be healed. May I be a source of healing for all sentient beings. May I be healthy. May I be happy. May I be at ease. That's kind of a personal Four Immeasurables, isn't it? It's so beautiful. And you're allowing yourself to be that. But ultimately, it's going to help you benefit others more by doing that and gaining genuine self-esteem. Okay, I rest my case. Do we have any questions or things to add? Yeah, you need to unmute yourselves, guys.
Yeah, if you ask questions, just unmute yourself. There's not that many people that we have to worry about raising the hand and all that stuff.
No. Small group this week. If you're completely content, we can do a meditation, an equanimity meditation. But I'll wait one more minute, my minute, to see if anything comes to you. Are we comfortable? That's what you need to ask yourself. Are you comfortable with the ideas expressed, or are there any there you think, well, hang on a minute, what if? Or how does that apply to, is it translatable into your everyday life? That's the important thing. Is it relevant? You're nodding, so you're comfortable with it. Oh, look, dogs. Got dogs going on out there. Not Cassie, this is a smaller dog. I need the tiger. I need the tiger to move in. No, they're all quite sweet. They're all quite sweet, the dogs, but there are quite a lot of them around. People love their dogs, don't they? In lockdown, so many people I know got dogs. Their comfort. Shall we do a meditation then on equanimity to finish? That would be nice. Okay, if there's no questions, let's do it. Keep an eye on the time. So take some lovely deep breaths and just let all that sink in. And to just notice a phrase which has resonated with you. Maybe it's from the prayers, or maybe it's from something I said that you thought, oh yes. And just say it to yourself and think about why that means something to you and if you need to be aware of it in your life. And then we're going to turn our minds to this concept of equanimity, which is having an equal regard to every human being. We start with the humans. Whether you like them or not, or whether you have any feelings for them at all. So this is a traditional meditation where in turn we bring in friends, strangers and enemies and just think about why we have that attitude before we equalize them all. So just imagine that you're seated on a lovely cloud in a large spacious sky, just very content on your own, nobody bothering you at all. It's spacious and light and blue and beautiful, and then in the distance, coming in on a little cloud, is a friend of yours, somebody you like. And they float towards you and sit a couple of meters ahead of you. And you look at each other and smile. You're so glad to see them. And as they're sitting there in meditation, very content, you start to examine why it is that you like them. Have you known them a long time? Do you have things in common with them? Are they nice to you? Do they say nice things to you? They care for you? Are they kind to you? Is there a kind of reciprocal relationship? You talk, they listen. They talk, you listen. And then start to think, what would happen if they stopped listening to me? They just talked about themselves all the time and didn't care about what I was going through. What about if you found something out you never knew they'd done, which was harmful, maybe even towards you? Gone out with somebody you fancied and never told you. Talked about you to another friend. was saying one thing to you, but was being hypocritical. What if they went for the same job as you were going for and they got it? In other words, what would stop you from being their friend? And then we just reason through that, thinking, well, do I want them to be happy and free from suffering? Or only if it doesn't harm me? And why are they behaving like this? Is it because they're a horrible human being, or they're just trying to be happy and free from suffering? And what if you hadn't grown up with them or known them a long time and just met them on the street? Would they be immediately your friend? And as you're contemplating this, in comes another cloud, and on it is somebody you don't really know. Maybe they run a local shop, or they've served you somewhere, or pass them on the street. You have no real relationship with them at all. In they come. Friend moves to one side, and this stranger is in front of you. And just think, why are they a stranger? Why don't I care what happens to them? Why have I never thought about them before? What would make them not be a stranger? Can I imagine that they could become a friend or an enemy? How would that happen? And then just sit there thinking about your relationship or non-relationship with this person. As you notice to the side another person floating in. Oh my goodness, you don't want to see them. You really don't like them. Your stomach churns when you see them. So uncomfortable. Your face heats up. No, but there they are, as close to you as your friend and a stranger. And you have to look at them and they have to look at you. And I just go through the same routine. Why? Why don't I like you? What's it got to do with? What if I was your mother? Do I still have the same feelings? What if you'd grown up down the street from me? Would you still be the same person? Are you fundamentally enemy? Or is it due to conditioning, to circumstance? And start to think, well, I wonder how they came to be that way. After all, they're a human being. And feel your emotions calm, your stomach calm, the heat from your face go. Feel as if you can look at that person with a little more equanimity and take in all three beings. And are you able to say, we're all equal in our wish for happiness and to be free from suffering? We're all equal in our wish to find meaning and purpose and answers to life's questions. And on a deep, deep level, we'd like to be friends with everyone because of who they are, not because of how they are to me. As we reject the self-centered approach and send them light from our hearts equally. May you have happiness and the causes of happiness. May you be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May you never be separated from sorrowless joy. May you abide in equanimity, free from aversion for some and attachment to others. May I be at peace. May my heart remain open. May I awaken to the light of my own true nature. May I be healed. May I be a source of healing for all sentient beings. May I be healthy. May I be happy. May I be at ease. And let the light fill you so that there's light coming from all four of you into each other like a circle. Our interdependence on these three beings to understand the joy that is sorrowless. Melt them into your heart and melt the light within yourself. And end your meditation.